So I'm going to be filming this right off my GH2 without a stand because there's just too many things I have to show on this. Okay, this is the slider I got. It is the Varavon EX Plus. It is their second largest slider that they sell. There's one more called the ENG. I thought this would be good enough for the Blackmagic. And the reason why I chose this slider, I'll go right into, is this. It's wide. And again, we talk about torque and things like that, but if you have a really skinny slider, even if it supports 25 pounds, it is going to twist with the weight of a Blackmagic camera on it. This, I believe, will make it considerably more stable just because of the width of the slider. There's more in contact with the tripod. There's more in contact down here if you have a flathead tripod. It should be considerably more stable than a thinner one. The bad part is, of course, this is not a transportable slider. You're not going to be putting this in any suitcase anytime soon. Yeah, I would love to have one of the more expensive sliders, but you know, they go really quickly from $300–400 up to $2,000 and more by the time you get motorized. So I mean, I think this is a really good compromise. For me, it was between this and the Canova. I'm off friction-based sliders. They can go fuck themselves. Angus, I've used a Collie Dolly, I've used several, and they all have the same problem. They all hesitate on the movement. And all these guys who put up their sliders thing and say, oh, look how great my slider footage is, I always see that slight hesitation, that slight tick. It's slight, but it's there, and friction-based sliders are loud often. So I just don't think they're good enough for me, so I wanted something better, and this was a good compromise. Now, the place I brought it from, Pro AV, in fact, sells this at a really good price with the Motoroid motor. Okay, so what do you get with this? You get these two large feet. There are also two small feet. Let's see if I can get in on those. And so these small feet, these little ones here, are pretty much on the slider at all times. So you can take those off, of course, but it just makes more sense to have them on so you have a little foot if you're going to do something quickly. It does come with a much larger foot here. This is a very good mechanism. It just twists in from the bottom here into these spots here and here. One of the things I did notice, it does not appear to me that you can have two tripod heads on this at the same time you have the feet, because the tripod head the feet go there, and I don't see how you're going to have room to have a tripod head. So, you know, I wish they designed that a little better. Maybe I don't see it, but I haven't been able to figure out how that would work together. However, you would never have those feet on at the same time you were putting it on a tripod, right? Here you can see I've got it on a single tripod. This is a big, heavy tripod. It's a Davis Sanford. It's a piece of shit, but it is heavy and relatively stable. It is pretty rough to move. It's a smooth movement, but it takes a fair amount of force with this. However, I think it will work adequately when I'm using a single tripod with a slider this long. Now, of course, you're going to want to have two tripods with this. Of course. However, I've experimented, and with my big heavy tripod here, and if you can see I've screwed the tripod plate directly into the slider, I can probably get 60 centimeters of movement. This is a 1 meter long slider, and I believe I can get 60 centimeters without any flux. When you get down to this end, when you get down to this end or that end on the motor, I don't know what kind of tripod you think you're going to have, but all the weight's here. So you got the weight of the tripod head, you got the weight of the camera, you got all the weight of the slider going this way, and what happens is your tripod will just move like that, and it'll mess up the movement. But I can go from about there to there with a single one, and I haven't noticed any flex like that. So, you know, what is this if you get it without the motor? I think it's an above average slider. I don't think it's a great slider. Let's take off I'm going to take off the attachments to the motor so we can see. So here we see the sled that you're going to be attaching your tripod head to, and then put your tripod head on top of it. This is a pretty good movement. Like I said, this is a roller bearing one, so there's no friction here. It's based on 3 bearings there, and there. to adjust the bearings, you have to take the sled all the way off the end, flip it over, and kind of disassemble this. As is typical of a lot of this Chinese stuff, the directions are completely wrong of how you adjust the bearings inside. So you just have to do a little trial and error. It's not that difficult, but it would be nice if the illustration in the manual actually was what you were fucking looking at. You can see there's a nice little bubble there for you to adjust level on. Use that more than you think. It's kind of hard to tell when you're level. You can see it moves pretty easily. I can just let it slide down. It's not silent. It's actually considerably quieter on the slow speeds from the motor. Now, like I said, the reason I got this is because I really wanted a motor, and the place I bought it from, Pro AV, has the best deal with the motor included. So, you know, it's nice because it has these inch markers here. Mine did have some damage right there. I don't know if you can see. Those are actually gouges in the surface. It looks like somebody just had a screwdriver and just whoosh, it slipped and they just cut it. I complained about this to Pro AV, and obviously I can't send it back internationally because of a little scratch, but they did offer to spot me 15 pounds on my next order. So they at least are willing to work with you. They were quite upset that it had a scratch that big in it, as am I. This was not shipping damage. This came from the factory, I can guarantee that. So, what I like most about this is the motor, and it's called a Motoroid motor, and let's take a closer look at it. Now, I have the motor somewhat disassembled at this point. I just taken off the string so it looks a little sloppy. The Motoroid is the same one that comes, there's only one motor for all Varavon sliders that they sell. It's called the Motoroid. The L1000, L1500 refers to the length of this. So mine is an L1000 because it's a full meter long. It goes all the way up to, I think, an L2000 for the 2 meter long variation. So don't get confused on that. The motor, there's only one motor and that's it. This motor is pretty easy to use. It's relatively easy to get on, but you are going to have to go through the instructions. On the Varavon site, there's a little guy from the factory that goes through the entire assembly of how to put it on. It's not a big deal to put on. A couple of things are irritating though. Once you have the motor on, it won't fit in the canvas bag. You do get a canvas bag for this. It's not a great bag, it's just a canvas bag. It's about the cheapest bag you could imagine. It will not fit this with the motor. There also is no way to transport the motor. They don't give you any kind of case for it or anything. So that's a problem I'm going to have to solve. I'd rather not take the motor off at all, but obviously for packing it seems I'm going to have to, or I'm going to have to find something really long. Because you can see it adds 4 inches, probably it adds a solid 6 inches to the ends. So you're going to have to get something, this is 39 inches, you'd probably have to get something 45 to fit all this. So the motor's really easy to operate. It has a switch here to turn on. It's left-right switch there, and it has a speed adjustment here. That's it. So really all that happens here is on the sled, get this up into the light, on top of the sled there's this little guide thing that goes on. It's made of very thin aluminum, and you probably think it's not going to do the job, but surprisingly it actually does a pretty good job. It seems sort of fragile, but it is all metal. So this goes on to this like that, and this is simply where, this is just basically a little thing that goes on top of the sled so you can attach the string. Now this is the string. They do sell this separately. I don't think it's very expensive. If it breaks, it'll also run, one of the more impressive things is this will run with hiking rope string. So they actually send you some other kind of hiking rope with it that will run in place of this. So there are lots of things that will run through here. The only thing you can see is that there are grooves into the motor here. Those are the only grooves. The rest of this, these are just guide pins to go around. Some things I didn't like about the motor at all, or about the motor assembly at all. If you can see here, let's try and, I'll just take this off and let that slide down. And let's see if we can get it in focus with the trusty GH2. And there we go. You can see this is pretty Mickey Mouse. I'm sorry guys, but this is just... Okay, so this is considerably longer. It's got another 10 centimeters on each end more than you need. So you have to cut it, and then you have to wrap it around here, and then you have to use like this little plastic tie to tie it tight. I don't know about you guys, but that seems Mickey Mouse to me. I don't know why you just don't have it cut in the size and send it along with. I suppose they could make it cheaper this way. It's a little bit daunting because if you cut it too short, you're not going to be able to use it. You're going to have to get a new string. I mean, I'm used to it now. It doesn't bother me so much. This little plastic thing is a limiter, so when this passes through the motor, it'll turn off the forward movement. So it just stops this from going up into the motor. It stops it right where you put the limiter. So when it hits there, it'll turn off. So I know many of you have this battery. This is the CCTV battery that many of us use to power our Blackmagic. This battery works extremely well with this. I can't tell you how long it goes because I haven't really used it for more than 10 or 15 minutes at a time. And then I have this thing where I like all my batteries recharged fully. So I don't know. I guess it would run for an hour. I'm not sure. But really, you just plug this in one of these entrances and you're in business. Put the battery over there. They also do send you an adapter so you can run it off that. It's way better to get a battery because it just allows you to be more free. So the way this works is here and here, one side's left, one side's right. That's on off. The wheel controls the speed. That's it. So now we're on. Let's see if we can get it to move. And we cannot. And that's because I have not turned the battery on. This battery has a goofy ass. Okay. So let's, whoa. Okay. So this is how it works. It's ready to go. It'll only go in this direction when it's clicked to this side. To go the other direction, you have to click at that side. Here I go. I move the wheel up. There's slow. Here it comes fast. Gets a little noisy on the faster speed, so you got to be aware of that. But it's not really noisy. And this acts as a limiter. It'll turn it off as soon as it hits there. Here it is on its slow speed. Let's see how slow we can get it. It's got to go back that way. Again, I don't like these things, but okay. So here we go to give you an idea of how slow it can go. That's pretty slow. That'll take 2 or 3 minutes to pull. I think that's right about the slowest speed. See, it's very stepless, and there you go. You can get any speed you want out of it. That's pretty slow and pretty cool, and you can go all the way up to this speed. That's good. Go in the right direction. Go even faster still, and it'll hit the limiter and stop. Start it from here. So here we are with the whole setup. We've got our battery on. We're ready to go. So let's go here to the left. That's a little speed increase. And as you can see right there, the tripod head started to fail, and I'm having to hold it right here, actually. And now you can see I've got myself at a fairly dangerous angle. 45 degrees, a little bit more. There is a stopper here on this to hold it in play. I've just taken that off. And now let's try the motor. This would be pretty impressive, I think. This is 4.5, 5 kilos at 45 degrees. Let's see how it does. And it does it perfectly and under control. I'm impressed. Let's see downward how it goes. A little bit faster going downhill than uphill, but look at that. Can do a really slow climb at 45 degrees. That's pretty impressive. There's a faster climb. Can I do a pan with it? I've got it locked down, so I can't. Okay, let's loosen it just a hair and see if I can do a little pan. As we go up, yes I can do a pan. A little bit faster so you can actually see the movement. Pretty good, guys. Let's try one more. I don't really want to lose my whole setup just to test the angles here. I think you can see that easily this will pull a GH2 with a big lens. And I believe it would pull the Blackmagic at a 90-degree angle without all this other stuff if I slim down my setup a little bit. Okay, I just tried it at this angle, and I'm not going to do it again because I don't want to lose all my equipment just trying to do a silly review. It failed at this. The engine sputtered and died. But now it'll go downstairs, and it's still kind of under control. But actually, that's not under control. So we had a fail at about 75 degrees. And let me pull all this back up so we're safety alone. But it did handle this at 45 degrees pretty easily. So that gives you an idea of the power of the engine. It'll handle anything between this and this. Otherwise, you need a lighter setup for 90 degrees. And I just don't have the time to test all that. But I believe it would handle 2.5 kilos at 90 degrees without any issue. So if you stripped your Blackmagic, had a smaller lens, this is a very heavy lens. So having something smaller here like the Voigtlander 0.95, I bet it would probably pull it. And I could lose a handle here and there, and possibly even take off the cage. Or just use the GH2. So that's it for this review. You guys can see some footage. I didn't do any footage at an angle. I'm running out of time in my day. But I believe it would be smooth. You can see some of the other footage is pretty smooth. That's it. Hope this gave you some ideas about what slider to buy. Like I said, if you can get a deal to get the slider and the motor is what makes the slider. So this is just a kind of probably an average slider that it's got good aspects and bad, but with the motor I think it actually kicks ass. So that's it.